to what I hope is going to be our last session. It's more than hope, actually, it is our last session. And as you know, I have sent you this text, hoping that it makes things clearer. I hope I didn't make things more complicated, but the intention really was to make things clearer. I know that some of you got a little lost with all the options, but in fact, there aren't so many options. There are 3 issues with options. The first one is the definitions inside the decision or outside the decision. The second one is opening the nomination files to all state parties, all the nomination files or only those with criterion 6 in it. And the last part where there are options are the ones you know of, the end of the contestation mechanism that I consider is the most important part of our debate today. Now, you will see that in the text there are some sections that are in yellow. These sections are paragraphs we have moved at your request in order to have a comprehensive text that goes of the recommendations from the working group, from the part of the decision that we are requesting the World Heritage Committee to adopt. And I followed the format we usually follow in UNESCO. For instance, when the executive board is recommending a decision to the General Conference, you will notice that there are several paragraphs that can be the same and then others that are different. I have also separated the parts in the contestation mechanism from the guiding principle, because the contestation mechanism is not a guiding principle, and to be in conformity with the decision we had adopted that said that the guiding principles are all in conformity with the operational guidelines. And I have completed the mechanism with deadlines, because it would have been very problematic later not to have the deadlines, as was said by the legal advisor. And most importantly, the last part of the contestation mechanism, at the end of whatever option you will adopt today, I added a sentence saying that the nomination file will be coming back to the following committee, because if we had left this completely open, and that is, of course is not acceptable. It is important to say that the file will come back for examination at the following committee. So in a few words, this is what I have proposed in this text to facilitate the debate today. And as I said in my mail, we will focus the debate on the 3 issues still pending, the definitions that I will deal with at the end. And what we have left is the issue of the opening of the files. I invite you to go to this part right away, and would like to inform you that I had proposed as a compromise last time that we open the files to all states parties at the same time for nominations that contain criterion 6. And then after consultation and speaking to many colleagues, it was felt that this was not the right thing to do, that we should be totally transparent. We're talking about world heritage that is universal and for all of humanity, and that we should be opening all the files at the same time for all state parties. I also understood from the World Heritage Center that this is something that they were eager to do since a long time ago, and that in the beginning this wasn't the case because the files were big piles of paper that were impossible to send to everyone. So I think that there is a lot of support for this option of opening the files at the same time, all the files to all states parties. I would like us to deal with this issue now and get to see whether there is agreement on this option of opening all the files at the same times for all states parties. And I'm opening the floor for your comments. I hope that this is not going to take up a lot of time because I would really like to focus on the rest of the contestation mechanism where we still have issues to solve. Who wishes to take the floor? Palestine, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to complicate things, but you know, my position since the beginning about the whole mechanism of contestation. But nevertheless, there is a kind of consensus on the issue. I'm not against, and even the question of the form. But would it be possible, instead of saying, making the use of the form obligatory with this text and elsewhere also, when we refer to the contestation, we say in writing using the established form. Can't we say, for example, preferably by using? So we'll keep it optional, and then all the rest, we will keep it as it is. It's just to keep it a little bit more flexible. Knowing that now I'm not against the form since we discussed it and it's very simple form, but just to make it a little bit flexible, that's all. If not, I'm open for the consensus, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Ambassador. But my problem with this is that we had already agreed on this part while you were away, actually. I am very hesitant to reopen it. And in the end, the form is so simple that it doesn't really make a big difference. And the room agreed with your proposal last time to have the argument, the contestation, and the counter arguments on separate forms, contrary to what we had proposed. But I don't know.
Withdraw the amendment. Okay, let's forget about it. Let's go forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Anyone else wishes to take the floor? Australia Online, you have the floor.
Chair, I'm happy just to support your proposal. You asked for us to put up our hands to indicate support or not. I was literally just doing that. So I'm just happy to keep it short and say thank you for your work, and we support what you're proposing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia. Lithuania, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And along the same lines as Australia just spoke, and since nobody else is taking the floor, just to support what is on the screen, option 1, and your efforts to find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Then maybe I should put the question differently. Anybody objects to what is on the screen? Yes.
No, can we see it? Can you scroll
Yes,
on the
of
screen to
course.
see the whole text, please?
Of course, I hope you have all the text with you, but of course we will scroll to make it.
What about the last paragraph? They decides to amend. It is amended. So how
Yes.
it would be?
Well, if we move with this option, as you see, we have embedded in the decision already the implication to the operational guidelines, what would change in the operational guidelines to not open Pandora's box. And this would be the change that would go with this recommendation of opening. South Africa, you have the floor.
No, thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the work that you did since we last met. we've looked at the whole paragraph, and I want to thank my colleague from Palestine for also saying we should have a look at it. We're comfortable with what you are putting. As you are aware, we were very uncomfortable as the Africa group with a discussion on the changes to the operational guidelines. And really the concern was really about the fact that this was going to require a discussion on the life of this committee. But we are very comfortable with the last paragraph in particular, where you are making very specific recommendations about how we should deal with the investigate changes to the operational guidelines, that you narrow it to the issue and that becomes a complete package. With that, we're comfortable to go along with the proposal before us. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Then may I take it that we can adopt this part? I see no objections in the room. I see no objections. It would help me if we could have the screen here. All right, thank you so much, because then I would also see who is. All right, then 1, 2, 3, adopted. Okay, now we move to the following part, where we still have the initial proposals. Here, we did not touch the proposals, the amendments as proposed by the states parties. We just added in the end a sentence saying that in the case where the committee would ask the states parties to continue the dialogue instead of dealing with the substance of the nomination, then there has to be a certainty that the nomination file is not gone without return, because then that would be kind of a veto power. That is why also, while having consulted the legal advisor, we added that the file would come back to the committee at the following session, like a year later. But now, of course, you are going to have to decide between the 3 options. We have one from Japan, one from Ethiopia that was trying to find a consensus, and one by Korea. And we have received a new proposal by Korea, but I will let the Korean ambassador present it. It's based on what is already on the screen, but I think that his concern was to make things clearer and more explicit. I don't know whether Korea wants to present the proposal. Is Korea connected?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, so our new proposal is not on the screen yet.
There is something missing. I don't know. Would you please clarify in the document that we received? We have in this regard, in this issue, 3 amendments, one by Japan, one by Lithuania, no, sorry, Ethiopia, and one by the Republic of Korea. And this one is brand new.
Yeah.
We didn't see, so
No, it's
where
true.
are we exactly?
No,
Please.
this is a proposal that we received
Newly.
from, yes, to try to find a kind of a link, a consensus between all the proposals and proposed by Korea.
Okay. So this deletes their previous proposal that we have in the document
From Korea?
from Korea. Yes,
Well, I think it's up to the ambassador to
it's
say
about
that.
the same issue.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course, but the ambassador is saying that with this drafting that he's proposing, things are clearer on.
To be honest,
on the
it is
process.
clear in both of them, and we have no problem. So let him clarify. So
We,
that,
yes,
please.
that he wants us to work on this one. That is
Okay.
why they, yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
I give the floor to Japan. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I think we have come a long way to reach here. This is perhaps one of the most difficult issues in our agenda, but we have come a long way. So many people have to compromise on things. Now, I remember throughout the exercise of this working group, many people have been talking about the importance of peace, reconciliation, and also the importance of dialogue, the agreement through dialogue, and also dialogue in itself. Many people talking about the need to avoid politicization. So we are here in the very last part with the same spirit. Now, our position essentially is that dialogue is the preferred option, but the committee can make different decisions. That is the point. Now, with other amendments, including this one, new proposal from Korea, the emphasis is relative only to consider. It doesn't mean that dialogue is a preferred option. Okay, there may be different
anything. I was just wondering if it would be a solution to say should request or may request or whatever colleagues can live with, and you noting in the report that that we do want to send this signal, but that we are aware as a working group of the fact that we cannot order the committee to take a certain decision. Would that help if that was just clarified in the report? Because in the end, we're all saying the same thing, which is we want to send signal, but we can't decide for the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. But what you've just done is given me the signal to put on the screen my own proposal. Because, dear Ambassador of Korea, when I received yours, I knew exactly what kind of comments we were going to have. So I took the liberty of changing a few things in it. And I would like my proposal to be put on the screen now and see whether this would work more. Concerning the last paragraph saying that the nominations have to come back to the committee, this is something we cannot do without, because doing without it means a veto power, and this is against the convention. We cannot, whether we like the nominations, we don't like it, whether the dialogue works, doesn't work, we cannot eliminate any file. The nominations have to go to the committee, and only the committee can decide then to refer, defer, inscribe, or not inscribe a nomination. And this is not something we can do. So here, of course, when it said before, even that weakens the system, and that is why I changed it. And here I'm putting should without the consider. And I think that this could be a good compromise because it is strong, but at the same time, it is respecting the convention and the prerogatives of the committee and of the states parties who have the right to bring any nomination they wish. So I would like to see whether this paragraph is something you can live with now. I'll continue with the list and give the floor to Kuwait, to be followed by South Africa. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 minutes ago, I was going to start, by saying, last meeting we supported Japan's proposal, but at the same time, and the rationale behind that, Madam Chair, is to us dialogue again. A very, very important thing. And that's why we suggested to open the files and we put up the mechanism, from the beginning to ensure the dialogue is accessible. But at the same time, we are flexible what's on the screen, so we can go along with the consensus. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Now give the floor to South Africa. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I think you have elegantly tried to reconcile different positions. I've listened to both what our colleagues from the Republic of Korea are saying, but also to what our colleague from Japan is saying. I think what is important is what we did. Remember, we called in a legal advisor to ask us about how far we can go, and it was very clear in terms of that. So the key question for us is to balance what is within the committee's power while taking into consideration the sensitivities associated with the files. And we think that the paragraph that you have here for us, I think navigates quite carefully all the points that have been raised. So we support the compromise that you've put before us.
Thank you, Ambassador. My next speaker is Colombia. Colombia, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my previous speakers also. I believe that your proposal kind of englobes what we wanted, because also I agreed with the Ambassador of Japan that we have to be coherent doing all the text, so this would be. And since I have the floor, can I request to hide the volume of the speakers online? Because it's too low. So
Yes,
if it's possible.
Maybe I could request to the
We are all like-
technicians. The room has difficulties in hearing the colleagues that are online. Can we do something? Yes,
Thank you
they're
very
gonna
much.
deal with it. Thank you. Thank you for them too. I now move to somebody online and give the floor to the Republic of Korea. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we accept your proposal. Well, actually, the new proposal, we tried to incorporate Japan, Ethiopia, and Korean versions into one. So still, your proposal reflects our intention fully. So I completely support your proposal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I now give the floor to France. You have the floor, madam.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Chair. We approve your proposal. However, as to the last sentence, I'm wondering if we shouldn't say in compliance with paragraphs 153 to 160, paragraphs 153 to 160, because that's when everything is explained about referrals, etc. So it's just a question of procedure. Thank you.
Okay. C'est bien ça? Ok, je pense pas que ça devrait causer le moindre problème. Au contraire, on a.
I don't think that should be a problem. In fact, it's better because it's more specific and more precise now. So thank you very much, Madam. I'd like to give the floor now to Grenada and then followed by Palestine. Grenada, you have the floor.
Madam Chairperson, and thank you for this proposal. As previous speakers, my delegation approves it. It considers that it is a good combination of all proposals and is taking into consideration the different concerns. And we have no problem. Of course, we accept the proposal made now by France. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One question to Austria. Austria, your hands is up. You're asking for the floor again?
Indeed.
Okay, I'll give you the floor right after Palestine. You have the floor, sir.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. We would also like to support your proposal, but I just have one question. Is it necessary that at the end that we say in compliance with paragraphs 153 to 60? If we just end the sentence at
Vous avez raison de poser la question. Voilà. Mais je vais vous expliquer pourquoi cela a été introduit. C'était pour expliquer.
Let me explain why we had introduced that last bit of the sentence. It's because when the committee examines, it doesn't necessarily inscribe. So it was just to explain what are the prerogatives. The prerogatives are to examine, inscribe and not inscribe, refer, etc. Because there was a lot of
Le dossier revient pour inscription. Il ne revient pas pour inscription nécessaire.
To the file, whether the nomination file came back for inscription. So it was just to clarify this, and if you don't mind, we will keep it because some countries had asked for this to be included. If it doesn't matter that much to you, if you can live with that, I think we'll just keep it. Thank you. Austria, followed by Japan.
Be replaced with the sentence that was added after talking to the legal advisor.
Well,
you
it's
remember
my, it's my proposal too. It's not
All right.
drafted by
Well,
the legal advisor, but it's exactly the same thing, basically.
No, not
right?
really. because
What is it that you find different?
You order the committee to examine, will examine. We always said that it's up to the committee to do what they want. They could even refer again and say no dialogue has, no results have happened. We want the parties to continue their dialogue. That could also be their decision. So I like the fact that it comes back next year, but then it should be open as to what the committee will decide. They could refer and saying, please, we want you to continue the dialogue. We feel that the file the content of the file will be improved if there's a proper dialogue and some outcomes of that dialogue. So for me, that would leave it a bit more open, your original version. So that would be the first thing. And I'm flexible as to the first sentence, but would still suggest a different wording instead of saying, and unless the committee decides and so forth, that we would say, we're not, and you don't need to put it on the screen, I just put it out there for colleagues to consider. So in the first sentence, my proposal would be to replace the half sentence, which says, unless the committee decides, with due regard to the committee's prerogatives. And then, so the first sentence would read, where no agreement has been reached, comma, and with due regard to the committee's prerogatives, comma, it should request the concerned state parties to continue the dialogue. And for the second sentence, I would prefer to go back to your first sentence, that it's more up there.
Yeah, but my first sentence is exactly the same, because what you're saying is that you want the committee to be able to refer, but this is included in the paragraphs 153 to 160 of the operational guidelines. So this is an option included in this sentence. So
As I
it's
said,
exactly
I have no
the
hard
same.
feelings. Yeah, but no, well, it's not exactly the same. But as I said, I propose it. I have no hard
Okay,
feelings.
it's proposed now. I'll see whether there is any appetite for it. I'll give the floor.
Can you also bring back the original sentence from above, as to replace the second sentence?
The one that is in red from any of these paragraphs.
Indeed, exactly.
The same one. It's the same one in the three options. Here, yes.
I like it better because it leaves it to the committee to then decide what they want to do.
Yes, I understand that you like it better, but the problem is that what we were trying to work on is something to bridge the gap between two sides that were very far away on this issue, and that felt more comfortable with all the precisions that are on the screen. That's the problem, is to find a consensus. But these proposals are on the screen, so now those who want to speak, please give us your opinion. Japan? I have two Japan, online and in the room.
Hello?
Well,
Well,
two people said well.
yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, I leave it to them. Okay.
All right.
Okay, okay. Well,
You
Can
have
I?
the floor, sir. Yes.
yes. Hello. Good afternoon and good evening from Tokyo. It's around 10:15 p.m. And well, thank you very much for various the comments and proposals, but still we are not so comfortable. First of all, if you so much in details about the operational guidelines paragraphs, it just bring some sort of the too much guidance or the inscription toward the committee. So our preference is that the unless otherwise decided by the committee, that is the much better than just mentioning the specific paragraph like paragraph 153 or 160. So we rather prefer to the original position. It's just, explaining although so much detail, it's just inclinations towards making decisions by the committee rather than dialogue among state parties. So we prefer not to specifically mention about the specific paragraphs of the operational guidelines. Just say decide unless otherwise decided by the committee. Thank you very much.
No, sorry.
Thank
It's not the end. It's not the end. Sorry.
It's not the end.
No,
Okay.
No, it's not the end. The second sentence is even bigger as a problem. Second sentence, if you compare those two things, it's very clear. First thing is, and the committee will examine the nomination file in compliance, meaning no more dialogue, right? No more dialogue. First time, dialogue, but second time, no more dialogue. Just choose one of those four options mentioned in those paragraphs, right? Originally, your suggestion did not say that. Your suggestion did not say that. No, I'm a little bit very confused here.
No, there's nothing to be confused about.
No. What I'm saying, this has to be very clear. What I'm saying is the second sentence pre-decides what the committee should be doing. In the second year, committee has no way to ask for more dialogue. Second year, no more dialogue, period. Isn't that the implication?
No, it's not, because the committee, when it decides to refer, it can ask for dialogue to continue. So dialogue can continue if the nomination is referred. But of course, you can interpret it differently if you wish. I cannot prevent you from doing so. The only thing I would like to remind all of you of is that with this drafting, Korea is accepting to remove the consider after should. So you each have to make one step towards the other in the end if you want consensus, as if you want a mechanism at all. So see, you have to weigh the situation here. So I'm reopening the floor on this, and I will continue with the list of speaker and give the floor to Turkey. Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will keep it short. For your proposal, the first part is fine with us with the original text. But for the second part, I have to concur with the distinguished ambassadors of Austria and Japan that we should make it clear that the call for another round of dialogue should be that is open. So we prefer to have the wording written in red. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now give the floor to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Thank you. I still have doubts in the rationale behind this preconditioning clause, unless otherwise decided by, because we have been emphasizing the importance of dialogue and encouraging concerned state parties And are we saying with this conditional clause that committee might decide otherwise than encouraging dialogue? So our delegation would like to propose deletion of this unless part, and we support Austria. Thank you.
Thank you. But to answer your question, yes, this is exactly what we're saying, because the committee has the right to decide. And because according to the convention, the committee may decide to continue on substance and not request dialogue from the states parties. This is their right according to the convention. So what we discussed last time in the presence of the legal advisor, who explained it very clearly, our drafting has to keep the opening to the decisions of the committee as the usual process goes on, without any obstruction to the committee to decide whatever it wants. We cannot create a new process that will prevent the committee from taking the decisions allowed for it to take in the convention. That explains the drafting. I now give the floor to Germany. You have the floor, madam.
Bonjour, merci de me donner la...
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I just wanted to support your proposal because we feel that's moving a little towards both positions. And so we think that's a good idea. We support you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You want the floor, sir? You want the floor again? Yes, please. You have the floor, of course.
Thank you. Still, I can understand your argument because, if we put here this preconditioning clause, then we preempting the prerogative of the committee. So here, why we have gathered here, we gathered to give recommendation to the committee. And if we put this clause, then we are touching on the prerogative of the committee. That's my,
It's the opposite.
Opposite.
Yes,
But,
because
why-
in fact,
okay,
we're telling the committee that they should request dialogue. We are favoring dialogue by telling the committee you should request dialogue.
Yeah.
But we're saying unless they decide otherwise, because it is their right to decide otherwise. So we can't say
What do you mean by decide otherwise?
they can decide to inscribe. It's their right. I mean, I didn't invent the convention. It's their right. They can,
Yes,
absolutely. No matter what we propose. And even if we say shall request dialogue, the committee can still inscribe.
But here we are not saying that committee should refrain from exercising their prerogative. We are only saying here that committee may consider
Yes, you're right.
encouraging
You're right.
yeah.
Yes, but this was something introduced by our colleague from Japan to facilitate consensus, to recognize that, of course, the committee has the prerogative to decide whatever it wants.
We would like support the Austrian option. It's
The
better.
Austrian option
Yeah.
does not change that.
Still, it's better.
Okay, if you wish. Saying exactly the same thing, I have no problem. So now, Japan, you asked for the floor again.
And unless
Who's first? South Africa's first, forgive me. South Africa, you're first.
this is a question of wedding and English. Thanks, some of us are not English speakers. But it's really a question of English. It's how far do you want to go in terms of the details? Or is it better to capture it succinct so that the understanding is not lost? Because I could even suggest that, well, if you want to be wordy, we could merge Austria and Japan. It's repetitive. But if it will assist to forge consensus, we can do it. For example, we could say, where no agreement has been reached, and that's and then Austria says, and with due regard to the committee's prerogatives, Japan wants unless and say, and unless. Is that what you want to say? And unless it's repetitive, but if it will take us forward, no harm. So I propose that we add and, we merge the two and see if it can take us forward. If you were to ask me, I would say it's repetitive, but if it will take us forward, then I propose that we add and merge Japan. Thanks.
Okay, I'm ready to accept anything that will make us reach a consensus on this. This is the ultimate goal. Now I give the floor to Japan. You have the floor, sir.
Okay, can I come back a bit later? Sorry for that.
Yes,
but can I
yes,
come
yes,
back
no
later?
problem, no problem, of course. Anyone else wishes to take the floor? France, you have the floor, madam.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's more a question, actually, because if the file comes back the year after with a dialogue, there is no further evaluation or consultation. Is that right? So should we specify that in this paragraph? Thank you, Chair. I think the more we add, the more complicated everything becomes. The text as it was clear, specific, and simple. Very straightforward. Now we've got problems left, right, and center. Even if it's not justified, even if it's redundant, as our colleague from South Africa said, I fully agree with him. If this can help, then why not have both? Even if it's not absolutely necessary. But in that case, with these suggestions, there's one part that no longer applies, that should fall. That says, unless the committee decides to examine the nomination, comply with para 153, etc. That needs to be deleted, which would mean we would have the Austrian proposal with Japan's and the addition by South Africa. And in fact, we're coming back to saying the same thing, but just with different words. And the same is true of the second part. The two proposals were yours, both the black and the red. So I think if the red is accepted by everyone, why not? And that should settle that. Because I think the first paragraph as it is not a problem for anyone. And the last two, honestly, comes to the same thing. Because in any case, when it comes back, to be perfectly clear, file is never evaluated twice unless there is referral or deferral. When there's neither one nor the other, the recommendation of the advisory body remains in place, remains valid until it's approved or rejected by the committee. So we don't need to say any more. The more details you add, the more complicated the text becomes. So I would suggest that as it stands, the first part, I certainly hope is accepted with everybody. And to go for a consensus, we could take in the second part what you suggested earlier, which is in red, I think. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. So that is how it would stand after Palestine's proposal. Is this now acceptable to everyone?
To hear from the ambassador of Korea, because this was his proposal. By removing consider after should. But in the end, this is his proposal. So I would like to hear from him and from the rest of the room if the paragraph as it is now on the screen is acceptable. Yes, Republic of Korea, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam. Madam Chair, we would like to propose to add at the red part, if no agreement is reached, the nomination file will be re-examined for decision. To clarify that the next year, the committee will take a decision in any case. It could be, as Madam Chair mentioned, to refer a decision for more dialogue. So if other members are comfortable with the red part, we would like to suggest to add a decision to clarify. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I'll ask countries to react, and I have Japan to be followed by Serbia. Japan, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. I would just like to make a simple point. In the first sentence, we have been told that you cannot pre-decide what the committee is doing. But in the second sentence, what the suggestion from Korea is sentence, okay, no more dialogue, go for decision, period.
Excuse me, the decision could be continue the dialogue. The committee has to decide anyway, even if it is to continue the dialogue, it's a decision. It's a decision that has to be adopted by the committee.
Can I then clarify that this decision, because Korea's suggestion originally was the paragraphs 153 to 60, what they mean by decision essentially is this, right?
That is what was meant when we spoke about paragraphs 153 to 160. Now
Yes.
this is deleted. Now it's simply a decision. How do you want the committee to tell the states parties to continue the dialogue without taking a decision, even the following year? They have to decide anyway. It's a decision, it's open. It could be any decision.
Okay. So I'll wait for the instruction then. Thank you.
Good, okay. Next,
Nanda. Okay.
Serbia, you wanted the floor, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're trying to find a consensus here. We believe that for decision, as has been already formulated, is we can, although you have explained that it's not, it can be interpreted that it is imposing a decision. So again, we need to emphasize the dialogue, and in that case, we would add at the end, with the possibility of continuation of dialogue, meaning that this decision could be also to decide to continue dialogue. We didn't want to make any problems to you to expand this discussion, but we just had to react to this. Thank you. Latest proposal.
Thank you, madam. I now give the floor to Colombia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I forgot to lower my
Oh,
plate because
sorry.
I was going to intervene the same way as you did regarding the doubts of the ambassador of Japan. That I understood the same for you. For decision can be adopt or refer or but
really,
and that was answering the question that France made before as
All
well.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colombia. I now give the floor to Belgium, to be followed by Turkey. Belgium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're fine. We don't need to take the floor anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Turkey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the explanation that you have just given about the decision. Yeah, it's open, but I think I agree with my Serbian colleague that we should be clear about that the dialogue is still an option in this paragraph. So I can agree with the amendment by Korea and Serbia, but maybe I can rephrase something like for decision, including inter alia, call for extended dialogue, so that it will be more clear that call for extended dialogue is an option for the committee. Because if you read the paragraphs of the operational guidelines, it says refer, defer, whatever, but there's no call for dialogue over there. Reference is about more technical, I think. Call for dialogue is more, somehow political. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Palestine.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And thank you for your patience also. I agree fully with you with your explanation regarding the word decision. But as I mentioned previously, more we add words, more we complicate things. And you saw here with the amendment of the Republic of Korea, we had 2 new amendments. So my proposal is to delete all these amendments, including the Korean amendment, and to go back to the original text, the red text that has been already agreed upon by everybody, because this text in red has been proposed in the 3 proposals last time, and there was no whatever, even if it is yours, but I understand that it is much more broader and it covers all the concerns, and we should keep in mind that the committee in any case should take a decision while examining a file. There should be a decision. So even if we don't mention it, there will be a decision, and the decision could be inscription, referral with dialogue, or nothing, only with dialogue. The committee is sovereign and they can take any decision. And this is what is meant with the red paragraph. So let's keep the original one and delete all the amendments. And I hope we can go forward this way. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to France. Vous avez la parole, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. To be honest, I'm a bit lost here. But if we take the first time that the file is being examined, today the committee has 4 types of decisions: inscribed, not inscribed, referral, or the 4th one. So those are the 4 decisions that can be taken. But through the rules of procedure, it can also suspend the examination and ask for a dialogue. And the way it is redacted in the first paragraph, I can't really recall now, but I feel like we are creating a new category for this new decision category, really. But it's either suspend examination or take a decision. So I believe that's what happened in 2018 for the First World War memorial site. The examination was suspended, and then it was asked for a reflection to take place. So the first decision was a suspension, and then the second decision was suspension of all memorial sites. So that's why there was a decision in this paragraph that is being referred to. So there's a process. The committee cannot decide anything really within decision categories that have been set up already. And so maybe we need to be in compliance with the rules of procedure or the orientations. But I'm sorry, I think I'm agreeing with my Palestinian colleague. Things are very complicated now. Thank you. I think it's very important what you just said. I agree with Palestine. I think if we continue adding on details, and if you want me to tell all the procedure and everything that has gone wrong with the site, then I could talk for half an hour and you wouldn't be able to stop me. But I think we need to go back to a text that doesn't go against either the rules of procedure or the convention. And so I think Palestine's proposal is pretty reasonable, taking into account the guidelines. I think the number of paragraphs we mentioned here, that was in the context of mentioning legal aspects, but we don't want to decide what the decision of the committee will be. And in the end, that's the same logic that these people who were worried about this are applying to the second paragraph. So I think in the end, we need to be just and fair, and maybe what is being proposed by Palestine is the more sensible option. South Africa, you have the floor.
No, thanks. I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. In fact, I support what my Palestinian brother has proposed, supported strongly by France, because we also understand that we are not amending the operational guidelines. Yeah? Whatever we say is obviously, unless otherwise indicated here and proposed, it means in accordance with the established guidelines, operational guidelines. So I support what Palestine is saying. Let's go back to the original proposal in red. Thanks. I must also indicate, Chairperson, I don't want to spoil the party. You must also understand that some of us might also be concerned that this, what do you call it, adjudication process, what do you call it, the
Contestation.
should also not be abused. There has to be a balance, because there's also a possibility that some might withhold agreement and consensus unreasonably.
Yeah.
That is why the committee must consider all factors together and make a determination. Thanks.
Absolutely, I fully agree with you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to my dear colleague from Colombia. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you yet again, Madam Chair. I'm also in the line of simplifying the text, exactly because it has too many room for interpretations, apparently. So, and here I go, I would go back to the proposal, one of the first that we had in the text of Ethiopia, taking away the consider, and it will be super short, because it would be, in case there is no agreement, the committee should request that the concerned state parties to continue their dialogue before taking a decision on the nomination file, and then the original red text. If no agreement is reached, the nomination file will be re-examined in following session of the World Heritage Committee. And it's simple and it's clear, and it gives enough for all of us to work with. But I understand the position of Japan, because, as you know, I also think that there should be a safeguard in all this process because of the sensibility of the subject. But I guess we can have it in a simpler way, and it will be easier to deal with a problematic situation if the text is shorter and clearer, since we are having so many issues with what you proposed. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now give the floor to who is Republic of Korea? Yes. Republic of Korea. You have the floor, sir.
Sorry, Madam Chair, because I said if you are putting in on the, sorry.
I'm not putting anything yet. Let us finish, and then we will see. If the proposal gets support, then I'll put it, or everybody's going to be lost. There are too many things now.
Totally.
Okay. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with simplifying the sentences, but I think we should keep and unless otherwise decided by the committee, because if we just have if there is no agreement, that means we are kind of preventing the committee to take any decision. So it's against the convention. So to clarify what we mean, I propose we keep the unless otherwise decided. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ambassador. Somehow I guessed that you would. Palestine, you have the floor, sir.
Now it was too late. I wanted to take the floor before. I think the intervention of our colleague, Ambassador of South Africa, was very clear, and your explanation to France. Je ne veux pas reprendre ce qui s'est passé.
I don't want to go over what happened because there were problems before the file gets to the committee. Already, the advisory committee did not respect their mandate, and the advisory committee needs to give one of the fourth recommendation, not the committee. The committee can actually decide whatever they want. They don't have to respect these four categories. And so that's why I think we have accepted the first part, including Korea, with the amendment of South Africa. And now we are discussing the second part. And I think the red part of the second part could be acceptable for everyone. Then my brother from South Africa also supported the idea of keeping the original text and this is not shown on the screen. So please, could you fix that?
And now I give the floor to the Philippines to be followed by Austria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would have wanted to deliver an intervention much earlier, but I'll just deliver it anyway. I think that we are all on the same page with regard to the first paragraph that veto powers should not be incorporated, and that the committee's prerogative to decide on the nomination file should not be in any way influenced or anyway, we think that the only bone of contention now is with regard to the possibility of continuation of dialogue. Our proposed rewording is that maybe instead of with the possibility of a continuation of dialogue, maybe the better formulation is without prejudice to the committee's decision to request for further dialogue. Just a suggestion, ma'am.
Thank you. I would like to ask you one question before you end. Would you object to the text as it was the original in red without any addition as proposed by Palestine and South Africa?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, our original position was we really wanted the chair's original proposal with the French amendment, and then the second paragraph as is, but with the addition of without prejudice to the committee's decision to request for further dialogue to make it simpler and clearer. But